We are live.
Okay. I call to order a regular meeting at City of Helotes Economic Development Corporation Board of Directors meeting. It is now Wednesday, August 17th, and we are at 7:02 p.m. So we're going to go ahead and start a public hearing. So public hearing and proposed maintenance and operating interest in sinking and capital budgets for fiscal year ending 2023. Proposed EDC budgets include economic development projects as defined by, this is a long reading, but by Texas Local Government Code, Chapter 505, Type B corporations. EDC FYE 2023 projects include the following expenditures: maintenance and operating interest in sinking debt service reimbursement of City of Helotes for 2015 certificate obligation debt related to infrastructure projects that promoted, encouraged, and enhanced the creation of jobs and expansion of local sales and property tax base, personal benefits, office rental, memberships, audit fees, conferences, workshops, seminars, legal and financing fees, conceptual design and land use, planning, marketing, special event marketing, websites development and maintenance, managed services agreement with city, Old Town Helotes parking lot lease agreement, visitor center, land acquisition, Chapter 380 economic development agreement, reimbursements, Google 360 tours, e-commerce accelerator grant, business improvement grant, retailer and tenant improvement grant, targeted new business development, and city and community arts grants program. So on that public hearing, Glenn, what do we need to hear? Do we need to hear anybody that wants to talk on it?
On the public hearing is for the public, so you're opening it up. So you need to basically announce that you're opening it up at whatever time. And then if we have no one to sign up to speak, then you can close it.
Okay. So I'm opening a public hearing. Do we have anybody signed up to speak? The public hearing is now opened at 7:04.
No one has signed up to speak, Mr. President.
Okay. With that, I will close the public hearing at 7:04, and we'll go into open session. All right. So citizens to be heard. This is my favorite. Do we have anybody that signed up to be heard?
Yes, Mayor Rich Whitehead.
Oh, awesome. Please come up and state your name and your address, and you have 3 minutes to be heard, Mr. Mayor.
Fantastic. My name is Rich Whitehead. My address is 10606 Asheville. I just want to take a moment to speak from the heart here. This past year has seen a display of a variety of opinions, preferences, and priorities. And while that differences of opinions and priorities are nothing new, we realize that a lot of times those differences can sometimes create conflict. And conflict is something that provides a great opportunity to be able to work through that. And I have been blessed with the opportunity to be able to see each and every one of you working together as a board. Not that there was a prevalence of one opinion over another, but that there was a sense of coming together and working and finding a solution that works for our city. And I have stated many times on the record that I believe we have a fantastic group of people on this board. I wanted to come to publicly state it once again, that it's not a case of one person's or one board or one council's opinion or stance that wins, but it's a city that wins when boards can come together and come together with a cohesive strategy. And so I just am speaking today from heart and a message of thanks for your continued commitment to serve in your positions. It's not easy, especially when you're working for free and the hours that come together for it. And so thank you for your service. Thank you for what you guys have accomplished. Thank you for the way that you have gelled together as a board, and even more so have come to terms with working on a higher, more elevated level with City Council, and you're all to be commended. And I just wanted to say thank you.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yeah. So I'm going to say, I think in probably the past 3 years, you may be one of the only citizens to be heard that's ever come up in an EDC meeting. So I'm very happy about that because normally we just go through the public comment part of it and no one's ever here. So really appreciate your comments. This board does work very hard, and it's actually, this is one of the most cohesive boards that I've been involved with in all the different functions that I serve in. So I appreciate everybody's time. Y'all's input is great. Everybody's very thoughtful about what they do. So I just want to say from the president's level, I really appreciate everybody here. So in the time, I know it's all volunteer time. We're all here for a greater cause. And I do appreciate that. So thank you, Mr. Mayor. All right. So with that, do we have any more citizens to be heard?
No, Mr. President.
All right. So we'll go ahead and close that. All right. So now we're going to go into the consent agenda. So I always read through this. All consent agenda items listed below are considered routine by EDC staff and are intended to be enacted by one motion. There will be no separate discussion of these items unless the director requests it, in which event the item will be removed from the consent agenda and considered in its normal sequence of the agenda. So do we have anybody who wants to remove anything from the consent? Okay, with that, we'll go ahead and entertain a motion for approval of consent agenda items number 4 and 5.
I motion to approve consent agenda items numbers 4 through 5.
Okay.
I'll second.
All right, we have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say nay. Ayes have it, so the motion passes. All right, so we're going to move on to committee reports. Kind of give it an update on this every time. Committees, we've recently formed committees for different functions within the EDC board. The committee members, we meet at will when needed. So sometimes there's more times that some of these committees will need to meet than other times, depending on what the items that we have in front of us or what is going on within the political environment. So I think from the update from the executive committee, I think I can update that. We really don't have anything to update on the executive committee. We haven't had a meeting since our last general meeting here as a board. So I don't really have anything to update on that. Do we have an update from the finance committee?
No, Mr. President, we didn't have anything since our last board meeting.
Okay, very good. Any updates from the governance committee?
No, Mr. President, we do have some things that we're going to be discussing here very shortly that will be brought up in the very next meeting.
Okay, very good. Thank you, Greg. Yeah, so again, the updates will come as items come on board that we need to discuss. So we'll move on to items for individual consideration. So again, these are not consent agenda items. These are items that need to be heard by the board and action. On some of them will happen tonight and some of them are just going to be discussions. So first one we have is item number 9, discussion of and action on approval of a resolution for an economic development agreement between the City of Helotes and Helotes Economic Development Corporation to assist with the repayment of debt services related to infrastructure projects associated with certificates of obligation, Series 2015, authorizing the interim executive director to take all necessary steps to implement the agreement. So with that, this is a discussion of and action on approval. So do I have a motion for discussion and action on approval or otherwise?
I'll motion to discuss and take action on agenda item number 9.
Okay.
I'll second.
All right, so we have a motion and section. So we're going to open up the discussion. So Joel, you opened it, so you get to talk first.
Well, I guess we have an update on the presentation of this to City Council.
Not necessarily as it relates to city council. They have already approved the agreement and authorized the mayor to take action. The agreement was not provided at the last EDC meeting. That's what we proceeded.
That's
staff
right,
and
okay.
the president to negotiate with the city along with our attorney. And we try to address all of the previous concerns. And so that's what's going to be in at Exhibit A That's attached to the resolution, backup documents.
Okay. My comments had been made prior to what we were going to have the special meeting about this specific item, so I don't have anything additional beyond those changes that were made as part of that. So those are already in what we're seeing here.
Very good. Thank you, Joe. Melanie?
I too, I support this, and I don't have anything else to add. This question.
Thank you. John?
Same. I support this, and I have nothing to add or further discuss.
The same.
All right. Greg?
I support this and have nothing to add to it.
All right. Jeff?
Nothing to say about it.
All right, very good. Well, it's had a lot of discussion. This is just my input. It's had a lot of discussion and we've talked about it a lot. And of course, I know City Council has, and I think we've come to a great agreement on this. And I think overall, it's very, very positive. So that's my only input on it. So with that, right now on the floor, we have an action of approval. So with that, I will take a vote now. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say nay. Ayes have it. So motion passes. All right, so now we'll move on to discussion of and action on sponsoring interpretive signage for the Historical Society of Helotes. All right. And I'm sorry, we're going to make you state your name and your address.
Oh, I know. That went fast, by the way. My name is Alan Holmes. I reside at 13306 Flying W Trail here in Hilotis. I am a board member of the Historical Society of Hilotis. With me tonight is a lady who really needs no introduction. Her name is Cynthia Massey. She is the president of the Historical Society. And she also has some other title here in Hilotis, something about the council. I'm not real sure what else she does. Our society, the Historical Society, has, our mission is to promote, to educate, to discover, and most importantly, preserve the history of Helotes. And that is nowhere more important than in the Helotes Old Town Historic District, which has a lot of words. I'll just call it Old Town. We all know it that way. In Old Town. And most of you, I'm sure you know, if you ever go to market days or in Old Town, you walk through the old buildings, and I'm sure all of you may even just go walking there, or there are a lot of events there in Old Town, and you see buildings down there that are old, and you wonder, I wonder if that's a historic building. It appears to be, but I'm not sure. It's got rock on it, and so that kind of makes it old. And but you wouldn't know because the buildings are not identified. You see no identifying marks on the building. There's no signage. You don't know really what the history of that building is. It might be a home of a founding father of Helotes. It might be the first grocery store ever built in Helotes. It might be the first gas station. It might not be because there's no identifying marks on the building. So our goal is to change that and help educate the public about the historic buildings that are in Old Town Helotes. So anyway, that's what I'm here to talk to you about tonight. In the past, I handed out, I hope you all got your handout. In the recent past, this walking tour map was put together by the Helotes Historical Society as well as with the City of Helotes. Funded and put this together. And you'll see it's a nice little map that was done with the historical buildings. I think there's probably 13 marks. The building itself is marked in yellow with a number on it, and of course the number corresponds to a one-sentence description down below. So as you pick these maps up, they're located on either end of Old Town, and you can actually take them the walk through there and attempt to locate where these buildings are and to discover a little bit about it from one sentence on here. It's a great map, it really is, and it helps a lot of people to get around Old Town and identify some of the buildings, but it really doesn't tell a whole lot about the building itself. We want to change that. We would like to put signage interpretive signage, and I didn't know that word before I started this project, interpretive signage in front of the buildings with some older photographs of the building, a little bit of history, some text about the history of the building, a photograph of the building as it looks today. So that is our goal. And well, first of all, let me just, also on the handout, we have chosen 9 buildings that we want to do that on in Helotes, Old Town, and I'm not going to read you the list because you can read as well as I can, probably better. But you'll recognize the building I'm talking about by its current owner or retail establishment, such as Texas Grounds Coffee House, Lotus Art Gallery, J. Gibson Salon. Anyway, just read through there and you'll know what the building is, but you would not have known it by its historic name. So that's what we're going to change or attempt to change if we possibly can. So those 9 buildings, we want to put interpretive signage in front of them. So let me show you. This is not the actual sign. This is a representation of the sign as to how it will look. It is this size in these colors. We found it very attractive. We like the fonts. And I'm going to pass these around from each end, let you crisscross them there in the middle. But so you see these signs is what we are looking for. They're 18 inches wide, 12 inches tall, and you'll see, using this one, pardon me, using this one as an example, an old black and white photo of the building at some time in its past. And then we'll usually have a picture of a person that is somehow relative to the building itself. In this case, it's the nephew of the gentleman who built the building. It was the old red and white grocery store here in Helotes, also known as the Riggs Grocery Store. So all the signs will be of this format in these colors, and there will be, at the very bottom right-hand corner of the sign, there will be 2 logos if this program is successful, and it'll have EDC's logo on it, the Historical Society's logo on it, as well as a QR code and of the Historical Society. So, and I've tested it, it works. However, I want you to disregard that for now, the bottom right-hand corner, and I'll tell you why in just a moment. So it will still be there, it'll be a little different, so that's why.
Thank you, sir.
Also in your packet, it was handed out, the last 2 pages are a smaller version of the sign that I just showed you. And now, if you will look at that bottom right-hand corner, you will see that the actual logos and the QR code are larger. They've been moved, so they'll have more contrast, easier to read, and we won't, obviously, if we fund this project, we want to get credit for it, and that's why we want your logo on there as well as our logo and the QR code that links to the Historical Society webpage. So it'll be larger is my point, and that's why I included these photographs so that you can see the size of it. Let me tell you a little bit about the sign itself. The second page of the handout has 2 examples. Now, obviously our signs will have nothing to do with flowers and botany. These came from botanical gardens, but the sign will be very, very similar to this. Again, 18 inches wide by 12 inches high. It will sit on 2 aluminum posts. The post, let me tell you a little bit about the sign. It is a 1/2 inch thick. It's composite. It consists of a 1/8 inch thick layer of polycarbonate on which the backside, the graphics are printed. That is bonded to a 3/8 inch layer of ABS plastic. So the whole sign itself, the 18 by 12, will be a 1/2 inch thick. Very, very sturdy. Each sign will be mounted on 2-inch wide aluminum T-posts. If you know what a T-post is, it's a post shaped like a T used in country fencing, so it's sturdy. barbed wire fences usually. And as I mentioned earlier, it'll have the logos of the EDC and the Historical Society, bottom right-hand corner with a QR code. The signs are UV protected and they're warranted for 10 years to cover fading, crazing, and cracking. We think it's a great sign. The signs are made by a company called Lark Label. We're entertaining the Lark Label because they had very competitive pricing. These signs can get expensive, which was very concerning to us at first, and we shopped around. Miss Massey went to the San Antonio Botanical Gardens and looked at some of their signage, and when we started to research it, we were really kind of blown away as to how expensive these signs can get. So we shopped around, we came up with Lark Label, and we think it's a good fit for us. By the way, what we consider a historical building is one that is approximately 100 years old, that dates back to all the way back to the mid 50 years old. So, and that makes it historic. 50. Wow, I'm historic.
Do you need a sign?
A sign right here would be great. Cynthia, anything you want to add to this point?
No, if anyone has questions, I'd be happy.
Yes. Super. As far as the cost of the sign is concerned, the signs will end up costing approximately $500 installed. The sign itself is $180. The two T-posts will come out to $72.50. The shipping is around $50. The mounting supplies that we will have to furnish are around $50. The designer's fee, obviously there's work that has to go into this, and we've got to pay the designer to put all this together and send to to be printed. And so anyway, and then the installation, we're hoping to get that donated. So I'm not including a cost right there. We'll figure out how to get those signs installed. So the total sign is around $502 each one. We have 9 of them. So do the math, and it's about $4,500 worth of signage in Old Town on 9 buildings. So the Historical Society is a 501c3 organization. We are nonprofit, and our funds are very limited. That's why I'm here, which is probably no surprise to you. We are asking the EDC to fund this project in the amount of $4,500. And so, having said that, we respectfully submit that request to EDC. Thank you.
All right.
Any questions?
No, thank you, Mr. Holmes. We're gonna open this up now. Thank you for the presentation, because I think otherwise, if we're just looking at an agenda item of what it is without having all the background, it'd be hard for us to say, is somebody yay or nay in it without knowing what it's all about. So with that, now, let me get back. Sorry, these iPads turn off all the time. All right. So let me get back to the agenda item itself. All right. So now that we've all heard the presentation on the signs itself, I will entertain a motion for discussion of amongst the board and action on sponsoring interpretive signage for the Historical Society of Hilotis.
I'll move for discussion and action on agenda item 10 as written.
Okay.
I'll second.
Okay. So now we got to open. Everybody's got a good background on it. Actually, Jeff, I'm gonna start on that end, because it's always easy to move from clockwise around here.
Okay. Couple of questions. Where will these signs be installed exactly?
Very good question. Each sign will be installed as close to the front of the building as we can possibly get it. That's our design, our desire. However, this has to go before planning and zoning. So we are going to present to P&Z a location that's agreeable to the owner of the building. We have to be respectful of his desires, or her desires, but the sign will be as close to the front of the building as we can possibly get it in a landscaped area I neglected to tell you that the signs are mounted at 42-inch long posts. The top of the sign leans back at a 30-degree angle to facilitate reading for both adults and youngsters. So it's all I can say before, we haven't been to P&Z yet, but that is our desire and our plan. Anything else?
Next question, what made you look at this style of sign versus the all metal aluminum, like historical marker type signs? Because I know you said a 10-year warranty on these, but they do have a lifetime. Those aluminum ones last, and they last. And they're considerably more expensive, I'm aware of that.
And we did consider that. They also make a 1/8 inch thick aluminum sign, but in that we're ground mounting these signs in an area where children can play and roust about, and the 1/8 inch thick, and we did discuss it, that possibly a child could run past the sign and cut themselves or knock a knot on the edge of the sign. So that is the reason we decided to go with a 1/2 inch thick sign, which would be prone to inflict less injury to a child or an adult.
That's all I have at this time.
Okay. Greg?
I'm going to go kind of off of what Jeff was just talking about. So since you're designing the signs, couldn't it be rounded?
The actual, I don't know the radius of the edges. They are somewhat rounded. I don't think it's a large radius. I'm thinking like 1/8 of an inch radius, but it is somewhat rounded.
Okay.
And not as sharp, not just a perfect 90-degree angle.
Have y'all contacted any of the businesses that these signs are going to be going in front of, and what's the general feel?
Good question. Yes, we have. Well, at least we have on 2 of the properties. We're fortunate in that, 5 of the signs by 2 different owners across the street from one another, and we are required to obviously get permission from the property owner. Obviously, we got to get his buy-in to it, and then we have to apply for a sign permit with the city. And before we can do that, we can do that as the association. Marion has determined that we can apply for a permit, the society can, in the name of the property owner, as long as we get written permission to do that. And on 5 properties, we have done that so far. 5 properties, 2 owners. We've already done that. So we're ready to move forward if to purchase those permits, possibly for $0, Marion. And move forward with that. So yes, in answer to your question, we have to have the buy-in of the property owner as well as their permission for us to obtain the sign permit on their behalf.
They're very excited about it.
Good point, Cynthia. Everywhere we have gone to talk to the owners of these properties, everybody has almost an instant buy-in. They love the signs. They're excited as they can be. They know that it will increase visitors to the Helotes Old Town District. And of course, when visitors come, they bring their money, and that's kind of the goal of what we're after. We want the businesses in Old Town to survive and to do well. And anything we can do to bring visitors into the city, I think is a good thing. That answer your question?
Yes, sir. Has there been any discussion in regards to like complementing the current business there? And I'm going to use Texas Grounds as a good example where they could have a QR code on there where you could actually go on there and see what their menu is.
We have not discussed that, and that's a good question. Probably not. We want this to be a project of EDC and Historic Society. So we have not entertained that at all.
Can I
Absolutely.
I have to say something about that. The reason we cannot do that is because the businesses in Old Town change too frequently, and we put their QR code and they're no longer there in a year from now. The signs are too expensive to keep redoing over and over again. So that's just something that we just can't we will authorize.
Any other questions?
I think I'm good for the moment.
All right.
Melissa?
Is there something you're going to do to where existing businesses cannot attach to the sign? Like they can't go tape their signs to it?
We haven't mentioned that to them. I think that would be understood, but possibly, maybe not. So I guess if that were to happen, we'd have to say something to the business.
They won't be considered monument signs or wall signs or any kind of signage, so they couldn't go and replace the front of it to advertise for their business because they are approved as a different kind of sign.
And I guess
The code will enforce that.
I was going to say, I guess that would fall under code
Yes.
if they attempted to hang some sort of sign. So
And then the other thing I had was the T-posts. They're not the regular T-posts.
they're not the regular
Okay.
T-post. If you're not a farm girl, are you?
But I know T-posts.
Okay. Yes, they are. They're larger. First of all, they're aluminum and not steel, and they're flat. There's no serrations on it to hold the barbed wire on. It's a very smooth, 2-inch wide. I think the back side of the T is, I think it's 7/8 of an inch thick. So no, it's very smooth. It's painted black. It does not look like a barbed wire fence T-post.
That's all I have.
I do like this. I think it's super cool. So I love our little town, just like all of us do. That's why we're here. And I love the history of our little town, which is what made me move here. So I'm into it. Just a couple of housekeeping questions. What line item are we planning on taking this out of the budget if we approve?
This would come out of marketing.
Marketing? Okay. Another question. Should one of these signs break or get defaced, what are we going to do at that point?
John, a good question. It's not included in this price, but there is a product made, and Cynthia, help me on the name.
Frog juice.
Frog juice.
There we go.
There's a product that you can put on top of the sign called frog juice, and it makes the sign, it's called an anti-graffiti.
Sure.
Which makes graffiti easy to clean off, and that's something we discussed as well. We are concerned about that. I'm still waiting on feedback from the sign manufacturer just to make sure that this product does not interfere with the polycarbonate coating. I can't imagine that it would, but I don't want to void our warranty as well. So,
And if once you get broken, like, somebody hits it with something and
well, in that case, I can't imagine that they would warrant that.
Probably not.
And I don't think I'd expect them to. But
that's kind of more what I was asking. Yeah. Okay, that's cool. Great. Last question. How do you see, because I have some ideas about how we can integrate this as part of the EDC and, bring people into Old Town. What do you envision as the Historical Society? Like kind of other than it being there and being very cool, how do you see us marketing that and integrating?
And yes.
I'm sorry, I never should just stand up here. I'm sorry. No, well, one of the reasons that this is the second phase to the map. And when we've had our booth at Marketplace several times, and when we do, we've actually had people come to us holding the map saying, this is a great map, but I can't find, the buildings and what's that building in this map,
Sure.
So that's what gave us the idea. We really do need to do these interpretive signs. The other thing that the Historical Society is going to do is we're going to start giving tours during Marketplace or sometimes during
There we go.
the week to people, to visitors. We're going to set some times to give tours, a walking tour of all of the places,
Yeah.
once we get the signage up. But I think that once we start doing that, that's going to help with the visitors coming in and wanting to, just to see that we do, this isn't just some little stop in the road, but there were some really things going on here. There's some very interesting stories that we have to tell that are above and beyond what's even on those. So that's one of the things that we're going to do.
Very cool. Yeah, no, that's wonderful to hear. And I will say, as for our board, I think this definitely ties into what we're doing, transitioning from the shop Hilotis to the visit Hilotis and kind of the day tours and things like that. So yeah, I think that's super great. Those are all my questions. Thank you.
Okay.
John, on top of that, one of the things that EDC and the city's working on is becoming part of the Texas Trails.
Oh, yeah.
So with that and beyond that passport, it comes effect January of 2023.
Yeah.
So we'll be on
Bless
there,
you.
and where we have this map, we'll also have their little stamper that they have with a little stamp, so they can come visit and get that stamp or get their passport if they've visited other places stamped. So the Texas Trails actually encourage that and give prizes when they turn in a stamped card.
Very cool. Very neat, very neat. Thank you.
Okay, Melanie?
Well, I think it's wonderful. I think it's a great way of showcasing our rich history that we have here
Agreed.
in Helotes.
Thank you.
And all the hard work that has been done. One thing that comes to mind, Old Town, there's certain areas that can be very dark. Do you have any plans for like solar lighting?
We do not. I'm not sure that would be a historical society project. I would have to turn to the city to see if they can assist in lighting.
Are you
And
saying
you're at-
lighting on the actual?
Just on the sign,
on the sign.
so you don't have people accidentally, walk. I know with some businesses, the front yard is not lit and
Right.
very, very dark. So that was just my concern, and solar, I don't know.
Wouldn't cost much.
Would, right,
I'm not sure. It's something we would have to discuss. I'm not sure if the sign can be lighted, if it'd have to be lighted from the ground up or
Just
from
what I was thinking,
up,
just-
down.
yeah.
I'm not real sure. It's
Okay.
something, but we don't have that as part of our proposal.
Right.
So it'd be something we would have to discuss. Hopefully, some of the buildings, if we get close enough up to the building, they have lighting at the building that would illuminate the sign, but specific to that sign, no, we do not have anything in our plans for that.
Is your idea closer to the building or closer to the sidewalk?
As close to the building as we can get it, but still make it easy to read for the public to go by. So I envision somewhere near where the sidewalk enters the building, as close to that as we can possibly get, but not so much as to impede walking.
Sure. Right, okay. Well, that's all I have.
Okay. Joel?
Thank you. Most of my questions have been answered here as we've gone down the line. I will say, on my way over here, I have an office in Old Town that there was a group of people outside of Flores standing in the street, looking at all of their signs, taking pictures of them with their phone, and just reading the signs, which I thought was interesting, and I think ties into that. I would assume those would be your ideal customers if you had them to come and do something like this. My suggestion might be as well with the QR code you had mentioned on putting on there is to expand on the information that you have on the sign, right? So for more information, you can actually click there and then read more detail on your phone or tablet or whatever for those who want more information. I think that'd be neat.
Yes.
If you're putting it out there, might as well provide all of the information, right?
It connects you to our entire website, especially an invitation to come join the Historic Society
One of the things
of
we'll do
Helotes.
is we're gonna add a page specifically for that. so
Right.
They can go straight to it and they'll be able to see all of the information on each of the buildings.
Yeah.
More information.
That would be neat. I don't think I have any other questions.
Okay. So my only input that I worry about is location, so yes, putting it up next to the building is great, but then we're putting it on private property and I worry about, if somebody gets mad for some reason and says, I don't want this and, knocks down our sign, if we want to have control of it, it's going to, for me, I think it needs to be more closer to the public right of way, closer to the street. So the city has control, unless we get some type of easement or something. I mean, we just got to be careful when you put it on private property. A couple of different things. People are going to have to go on the private property to go look at it. And I know, I hate to think about these things, but these are the things that we unfortunately have to deal with in the real world.
Can I say something? real quick?
Sure.
All of these are gonna be in front of businesses, except for one. And one is gonna be in front of a residence, and that one is not gonna be right in front of the house.
Right.
That one will be closer to, in fact, it'll be on the other side of the fence in front of, closer to the street area or the sidewalk. So, I mean, I'm cognizant of what you're talking
Yeah.
about, but the property owners so far that we've discussed it on the first 5 properties, I've walked with one of them for 2 of the properties, and he told me where he would like to see them.
Yeah.
And one was, the little cabin, which is next door to the Red Barn?
Yeah.
Okay, the
Yeah.
antique store.
Yeah.
That whole area now is full of a lot of antiques, okay,
Right,
all over the
yes.
place. There's really no place to put the sign, but he said, let's put the sign, I don't know if you remember, but there's a walkway. He wants it right outside the walkway, closer to the sidewalk. It's on his property, but that's where he wants it,
Right.
because then you don't have to worry, there's so many antiques all over the place.
Right.
So anyway, we're working with the owners, and this is what we're going to be doing with P and Z, explaining exactly where and why we're putting them where we are.
Right.
And it's very much in conjunction with the property owners. I can't imagine the businesses not wanting people to go into their business.
I agree. It's just, it's one of those things that you just never know what people's mindset can go to, from one owner to the next. But we just need to be prepared that there could be some fallout at some point that somebody just says, I don't want this in front of my business, and they could pull it out, especially if it's just
Well,
a T-post.
if they're the thing is, the people who own the businesses are not the property owners, and it's the property owners that are giving the permission. That's where
Okay.
we're getting the permission from.
Good point.
So if a business owner is leasing that and pulls a sign out, they're going to have to replace it.
Now thinking about that, have we looked at, instead of a T-post, maybe a 4x4 metal post, like how much that would increase the cost?
A lot.
Okay.
And primarily because the sign, the post itself is not that expensive. Freight was extremely expensive. It was more than the post itself cost. And it was a nice post. I really liked it, and I kind of wanted to go that direction. It was a 4x4 steel post. I'm not even sure why I'm talking about it, because it was just prohibitive to go that route.
Okay.
Mainly because of its length and its weight, and it cost more than the post did.
Right.
So we considered it, and I liked that design, that look, but it just wasn't going to work out financially.
Good, I respect that. Y'all put a lot of thought into this, and y'all kind of run through the traps of it. I think it's a great idea. I love it. Again, going back to our rich history and what it could do for these businesses, I think it's going to be great. Just all the best laid plans don't ever turn out, I don't want to say don't ever, sometimes don't work out, just the way we see them. So we just need to be prepared for that. Now, in a thought to that, I know we've got a very finite cost on what you're asking for. Now, this is going to be, I know the board's probably going to hate me for this, but I'm actually thinking of rounding off a number probably like $5,000, just because I think there's going to be something that's going to happen right now in our society, supply chain issues, whatever it may be. Everything I'm seeing is not coming in at the price that we always think it's going to come in at. So,
Blaine, you're absolutely correct, because this budget, as you saw in the breakdown of the price, I mean, it's to the penny.
Yes.
And it's dead on it, so any contingencies that would come along,
right.
the society would probably have to pick that up, or we'd come back to you. So it's, we're tight on this budget, is what I'm trying to say. So we feel we're dead on.
So my recommendation is that and I'm for this, so, we've got a motion on the floor for support. But me personally, I would like it amended to a $5,000 donation to the Historical Society for implementation of this program. So that's just my words. I forgot who made the original motion. So John, you don't have to amend, but.
No, I'm down. Absolutely. Absolutely. I think that's certainly a safe bet, and I think the Historical Society is doing a lot. And I really like the fact that you're going to be giving tours, and as we're kind of shifting from the shop to visit Helotes, I think this ties in really nicely. So I really want to make sure that it goes off without a hitch, so that we have all of these things ready to go. So I will amend my motion to increase from $4,500 to $5,000.
Okay. So now since it's been amended, I need a second on that.
I'll second.
Okay. I have a motion and a second. So the motion on the floor is amended to $5,000 to the Historical Society for the Interpretive Signage. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
For the amendment, correct?
This for the amendment, correct? Yeah, because I don't think we don't have to do any type of action on the
As
original.
long as the first person amended it.
Okay. So the person, yes. So all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say nay.
Nay.
Okay. So we have ayes have it, motion passes. All right, so now we move on. All right, very good. Thank you all for y'all's time. Yeah, President, super exciting.
Are we going to discuss the main motion now? Because we just voted on the amendment.
No, since it was amended by the person and second by the second, then that's the motion because he's the one that amended it.
Okay, I specifically asked if we were voting on the amendment or if we were voting on the main motion. And I said and I was told we were voting on the amendment.
Amendment.
Right.
Because I have some discussions that I would like to do of the main motion. But if we're not able to do that, then I guess we're done. Because generally, when an amendment is done, the amendment has to be passed. And then once that's approved.
You can go back to talk about the first motion, yes. But the amendment was what was passed, yes.
Okay, so we haven't voted on the main motion yet then?
The main motion was amended, so that's what you voted on.
Was the amendment,
Yes.
not the main motion?
But the main motion dies when the first person that motioned it amends it
First and
Right.
second.
Passes.
Yeah.
and got a second.
Yes, Mrs. What you voted on was the approval of the amendment.
Right.
You have not voted on approving the $5,000. You just approved the motion to read for $5,000. Now he wants to discuss the matter of the $5,000 upon which you now have to vote after that discussion whether or not to approve the $5,000, not as what he is stating.
Right, but when the main person makes an amendment to their motion and it got seconded, the first motion dies and the amendment actually is, they don't have to vote on the amendment because they never voted on the first motion.
Okay. I'm trying to go through Robert's rules right now, and it's a very,
Well, I understand.
yeah. And that actually, but the hard part for me is I always like to hear everybody's concerns. Can we still talk about? Is there still discussion that we could still open even though it's approved? I mean, we're still just people here talking, right? I mean.
You can still discuss it, there's no action on it.
All right, so let's open discussion on the item. Jeff, I just want to hear your thoughts.
My concern was, or my comment on that was going to be, I think that we need to have the property owners and the Historical Society needs to have a little skin in the game, is what I was going to say. That's why I was voting against doing it for 5,000, because I think we should have done it for 2,500 to do a one-to-one match, is what I was going to discuss and talk about. That's why I voted no, because I was not in favor of the 5,000. I didn't think we were voting on the main motion.
Okay.
So that was my discussion, was what my discussion was going to be.
Okay. Well, thank you, Jeff.
Can I come in real quick, or I can't?
Yeah, I don't know what it's right now, we're just in the discussion mode and I understand exactly where you're at, Jeff.
Got to skin in the game.
Yeah, I know.
I just wanted to address that, that's all.
Okay, well, actually, Cynthia, why don't you come up and that way we just have a discussion.
I know all of us are volunteers here and we just, do what we do, but I'm also a professional writer and I donate all of my writing to the Historical Society. And if I did this for any other historical society, I'd be charging way over a minimum of this $2,500 you think that we should be spending. I'm saving this society probably $10,000 just because I'm doing all of the writing and providing all of the photographs and it's a lot of work. So I just want you to know that.
Yeah, thank you, Cynthia. Yes, and actually, if you ever read her publications, they're actually very good, so. Thank you, Jeff, for the input. It's definitely taken in, by us and the board, so. But I think overall, it's approved, so we're gonna move forward with this. And it's, this is gonna be a new program that we're all trying out, and I think we all think it's gonna be great, and I hope it's great. There's gonna be things, bumps we're gonna hit along the road, maybe the angle we didn't get right, or maybe the sun hits it too hard. These are things we just can't predict at this point, until it's out there. So, the best thing that we can do as a board and for our audience is make sure whenever we're out there at market days or otherwise, telling all our friends and family, hey, go visit these boards and go check them out and understand what we are. So I wish we'd have had them up by YOLO, but yeah, YOLO's already passed, so that's already gone. Well, thank y'all for everybody. We'll move on to the next item. All right, so now we're on to item number 11, discussion of and action on amending the matching fund requirements for the fiscal year 2022 Community Arts Grant. I see we don't have any presentation on this. Amending the matching funds requirements for it. Can we get a quick presentation by staff on this before we open this up for discussion?
So the board approved the Community Arts Grant Program back on January 19th, 2022. The project submittal deadline was extended to the end of June, so June 30th, 2022. During that period, we had received 2 applicants with a total of 5 projects. The Arts Grant Committee met to review the submittals. They did approve one of the artists and all 4 of his proposed projects to move forward with. After sitting down with the artist, I would say he misunderstood a little bit about the program guidelines, and I think if any of you guys have read it, it was really designed as a way for the EDC to help spur art installations throughout Hilotis on private property. Because when you read it, it asks for a donation, a match. It was a 1-to-1 match. The match is stipulated as coming from the business or nonprofit organization. It doesn't necessarily specify coming from the artist himself. This particular project, though, is proposed to be in city right-of-way. So it's property that the city of Helotes owns in Old Town Helotes. So the projects thus would be owned by us, either as an EDC or as a city of Helotes. They would not be owned by a private property owner. So the artist asked if there was a way we could reconsider. I told him I had no problem, since this was a little outside the box, the program parameters, to bring it before the EDC board for consideration on upping the amount of match or paying 100%. That I leave up to you guys. In the background, I did include the 4 sculptures. You can kind of see it follows the circulation of rain, basically, from clouds to rain to the river muse and karst muse. So they're all interpretations of that. There's a map at the end of the packet that may be hard to read, but it actually pinpoints where each of these pieces would be located, with the cloud muse starting in front of the Helotes Art Gallery, the rain muse in front of Gigi's house, the river muse on the south side of the pedestrian bridge, and the karst on the north side of the pedestrian bridge. But each of these locations, again, are in the city right-of-way. The artist did provide a cost of materials and labor for the pieces, and so you can see that the total project cost is $14,950.
Okay. Just for clarification before we open it up, right now, the program as it's written is how does it work?
1-to-1 match.
1-to-1 match.
The way it's currently written is that the EDC would pay for $7,425, and the artist would be responsible to cover the balance or
Right.
obviously eat the expense.
And the ask is for us to cover 100%?
Anything from a 2-to-1 to 100%, yes. So cover 2/3 to 100.
Was there a maximum allowed per project?
There is, off the top of my head,
it's 5,000.
I don't have that in front of me.
Okay. I guess before we get into,
15,000 for, it depends on how you classify it, because there was small, medium, and large.
yeah, before we get into too much
That's at its different level.
outside discussion, I mean, okay, so this is a significant change, in what we currently have as our program. So right now, the way that, the action item is, it's for discussion and action of this amendment. So for us to really open it up, for us to discuss an open floor, we have to have somebody that has to make a motion for discussion and action on this proposed amendment. And that can be both yea or nay. I don't think this has to be a motion for approval or a motion.
It's a motion just for discussion and action.
Right.
Yeah, and then at that point, y'all would vote after discussion.
Okay.
I'll make a motion on discussion and action on consent agenda item number 11.
I'll second.
Okay. So we have a motion and a second. So, all right, lots of discussion is going to happen here.
Jeff, I can tell you, we had 25,000 allocated for this program.
That's for the whole
This
program, but that's for the whole program.
For the program, yes. But again, this was the only qualifying applicant.
But wasn't there a max per project?
There was, and I would have to look that up to let you know. I believe it was 15,000. I can see if I still have access.
But is each one of these a project, or is the entire one, two, three, four?
Yeah.
of them?
What constitutes a project? Is it because it's one person doing 4 different things, or is it one project?
That is interpretation.
Yeah.
You know, these are 4 separate pieces.
Well, you're trying to look that up. I'll start the discussion. I've really gone back and forth on this, and because on one hand, we did agree on what we wanted to do with this art grant and why we wanted to have it. We had all those discussions and hashed it out. On the other hand, we did not have a lot of applicants. The end of our fiscal year is coming up, and we haven't had any of it. So I would like to use that money, and I really would like to see some art in Old Town, and I think that it kind of ties in with everything that we've been talking about with the shift in our shop to visit. I mean, honestly, I'm still debating it as I'm sitting here talking right now in my own head, but in hearing it, a large part of me says that we should move forward with it as a full match and fully fund this project, specifically because we need to use that by the end of our fiscal year, if at all possible, before October 1. And we can start anew on other projects next year, realizing that that also sets a precedent for other folks applying as well. So quite honestly, I'm torn, and I'm excited to hear what the other board members have to say about it.
The major art grants was anything over 2,500 on the application. It does not state a maximum. So anything over 2,500 is considered a major arts grant.
Am I reading this correctly, that the estimated completion date is September 30th, so in a month and a half?
Back when the applicant applied, that is correct. He said at this point, if he got direction to move forward, he will make every effort to get this done before the end of our fiscal year, but likely we'll be able to complete 2 of the 4 installations and have the other 2 under development. So we do have the ability to pay based off of completion. So he may be able to pull a couple of draws this fiscal year, but there likely will be one for next fiscal year.
And the only other question I had was who was going to install these? Was the artist or?
So we actually met with Public Works Director Josh Mayer. We got permission from the city, of course. And because these pieces are going to be one in city right of way and two along the sidewalks. So you're not walking through flower beds or onto private property to see the piece. I feel more comfortable having him. The artist said he was fine with it.
Yeah.
Anticipated cost on installation shouldn't be over $200 per piece for the concrete pad. The artist will provide a template for the rebar post that he will then can set the stone block, call it a butter block, and then his piece. All of it will then be epoxy to a slab or concrete footing.
Melissa?
Oh, I'm good.
Okay. Greg?
I don't see anything about dimensions on here. I'm trying to grasp how large
It's in the
this is.
last paragraph, 6 feet to 12 feet.
So overall, for this price, they're 6 foot total in height. You got 3 foot, approximately 3 foot on the stone and 3 foot on the sculpture. Width will likely be close to 20 to 24 inches. And you can see in this anticipated cost does include the concrete pad and epoxy. So that $14,950 is the total.
Oh, I thought we were going in a circle.
Yes, I'm sorry.
Sorry, I'm just,
No, I was just waiting. I thought Greg had something. I didn't
Who's
want to cut in front of him.
yeah, Greg, you good?
You're good.
Yes,
Okay.
going back through here and just kind of trying to figure things out in my head too, because if we do move forward and fund the entire project, it is going to set precedents and we're going to have,
Right. Yeah. We'll come back to that. Jeff?
It's pretty obvious in the application. It's on the website. I'm seeing it here in multiple places. It's a 1-for-1 match.
Right.
That's my concern.
Yeah.
It's a 1-for-1, and while yes, we did not have other applications, doesn't mean we have to spend the money.
Right.
It's not gonna hurt us if we roll it over. Just because it's something's budgeted does not mean that we have to spend it. I think it would be not very financially sound for us just to do a 100% funding on this because we have the money. It says it on the application. It talks about matching funds. There's on the website where the application is, it's a big blue thing with letters and it says matching funds. Individual artists are, provide 1-to-1. So.
Good. Melanie?
I agree with Mr. Felty. One question I do have first is how long will these be up?
These will be permanent installations on, and again, public property, not private property. So the original program, we would be paying a business owner to have an art installation on their property that they own. This is a piece we own forever. So that, to me, that's why I brought it back for consideration.
Okay.
Because it is different.
What is the cost that we're paying to the business owner?
That's what's the
That's it.
original.
Now it's all less at 14,950. So that's the total cost of the project that we'll be funding as the EDC since there is no
And that
private.
includes to the business owner.
There is none.
There is no business owner's not charging us for having it on
Nope.
his,
This
Won't be on.
Right away.
pardon?
City
It's
right
on the
away.
city right away, exactly, okay.
So it
So-
becomes our art.
It's our art and it's up forever. And the majority of the expense is labor at $10,350. And I agree with Mr. Felty. I don't support 100% funding of this. I would go so far as to support 75 to 85%.
Joe?
I'm gonna go with a safety question if I can.
Sure.
Because this is all metal, and if it's only gonna be 3-foot block, you're right in the grabbing area of a 4-year-old. who's curious, and it's all metal. And I mean, we can't see them physically, so I don't know if there's sharp corners, I don't know if there's sharp edges, and we're putting it in the city of Helotes public right of way. Could that be a liability on us as EDC?
Yeah.
Yes, it is. It's a liability. It can be a liability because it would be EDC installation. We give you the rights to put it on the right of way, but it's an EDC. It's owned by EDC.
Good point.
It's kind of like the armadillos out here in the front flower bed. I mean, you can cut yourself on those as well. These are a lot smoother in nature than, not
Drawings.
I think Mr. Holmes was talking about 1/8 inch, reasons why they didn't go with aluminum signage. I know this particular artist has some smaller pieces in Helotes Gallery, and everything there is smooth, rounded edges. There's nothing that any individual could catch themselves on, if that makes sense.
Okay. Go ahead, Melanie.
Are we obligated to leave permanently there? Is there any clause that says that for some reason EDC can decide to have them removed?
There are pieces, so.
We
own them, so
we can move them anywhere.
Okay, great.
Yeah, which I do like is that the fact that we could move them, put them somewhere else, replace them with something if we needed to. But at first, I liked the idea of the theme and having them run together and kind of have this go down the street. But as we talk about here, it almost seems would be more advantageous to try the piece, if that makes sense. Maybe do one or have him put together a singular piece that we could, because then at that point, we're taking up the entire street.
Yeah.
At least the right-of-ways there, that would be the most ideal places for this art that we're looking for. I fear we just get it in there and we don't like it. And we've done it up the entire street and paid for the entire project, would be my concern. So if we were gonna do something, I would be more in favor of sharing in some of that cost. I don't wanna pay for all of it, but maybe the suggestion being to try one of his pieces in a particular area, and if we like it, we can add to it next year, rather than committing to all of them at first. So that's my thought.
Okay. All right, so Joe, I think that's a very, very good thought in that. So where we're at now is we've got a program that's set up, and if it was somebody falling within the lines, the program guidelines, it's kind of like, all right, this is what we committed to. But what we all decided as a board was, hey, we're gonna have this art, and it's gonna be on private property, and just like we were talking about earlier, we're gonna have the owners of the property have some skin in the game, and now it's back on us, right? So 100% on us again to figure out whether we're gonna do this or not. I think we've all decided that art is probably a good thing for quality of life in Helotes. We could all use a little bit of maybe some finesse in our lives. But I'm with you on that, Joel, that it's kind of hard. You're basically saying we're going down the whole road with this, and hopefully we like it or not. So, and again, this is just a suggestion. We've got we're in a discussion right now. So my thoughts on it is the same thing as maybe, yeah, we can fund 100% in the right of way, but maybe it's just a test piece, of which one we think is going to be the most impactful there. And it's hard to say about what's the most impactful because, we all love our pedestrian bridge, but sometimes it's just not, well, it does get seen a lot though during concerts, not during market days so much, but probably from a standpoint of like what it represents, the river muse right down by Helotes Creek is probably pretty good, but I'm all over the place on it, and it's just trying to figure out what is the right thing to do. I just don't feel like 15,000 and it's in the right of way now. It's all on us to go do it. I just don't want to. I don't feel like spending that money, me personally. So I don't know what this turns into as far as a motion. You know, is it a motion? Let me just ask you this, Glenn and Marion. If we have a motion to deny this amendment, can we come back with another motion that says a motion to amend it? Or can you come back with an application that's maybe a smaller piece?
Right, that's it, and you're absolutely correct. It's two different components. Right now, what you have on the table is a discussion of the actual, what you approved on the grant, the art grant, the requirements.
Right.
So this is to determine, regardless if it's this artist or any other artist, if you're amending it. Then at that point, you can direct staff to bring back a presentation of what was submitted, and then pick from there if you would like to fund 1, 2, 3 of those, or all of those
And that's
projects.
a good point, is once we amend this program, if we amend this program to say, yeah, it's a 1-to-1, then everybody else that applies is applying under this amendment.
It's no longer open. It's not an active program.
Okay. Yeah.
So this does not affect anyone in the future, and obviously the next fiscal year will be relaunching likely something different.
Because we're surpassed the deadline.
Right.
Yeah. It's just it's a stark change from what we all discussed. You know, that's the hard part I think we're all having is, you know, what we discussed, and we had a very long discussion about it, was about how we wanted to roll out this program, and now it's just changed a lot. I mean, nothing wrong with what he's proposing, but I just, for me, was it right brain or left brain, could not get my head around about what exactly it's gonna look like.
And by law, you can change this. The only thing on the perception is that, my recommendation is that this was out there written one way, and then you've closed it, and you're changing it, and you're not reopening it up to artists to reapply on the new.
Because there may be some people that did not apply because they didn't
Exactly.
have, they couldn't.
Right, because they knew they couldn't get the 1-to-1, so, yeah.
So, Blaine, I'll make a motion that we do not amend this project.
Actually, okay, but you can amend, there's already a motion on the table. Like you said, you can amend, who was the one that made it?
John.
So if John doesn't amend it and you're amending, that's
okay.
when, unless he agrees to the amendment, then we don't have to vote on the amendment.
Okay, perfect.
So much happening right there.
Right, but I guess my direction or ask would be that, I don't know who's on the arts committee, I'm not. So that maybe they review this for a singular piece to come back to, for approval for a singular piece that we have here. Oh, were you?
I was, as long as Donald first.
Mm-hmm.
And,
Melissa?
yes.
Perfect.
So, no, we approved all 4 of them, and we had a discussion of it. We approved all 4 of them.
Would there be a preferred one? Do you think if y'all went back and met again, that there was one that,
The one, if you're, because you really do need the water one. The one that shows the water, the actual water drop, I guess is what it looks like.
Yeah.
To me, that would be if you're gonna go that route, that would be the one.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
It would be beautiful by the bridge. So again, how do we keep within Robert's rules?
So basically, you either vote on the motion, which was to approve as written.
Okay.
Okay, or someone can amend it. It could be either John. If it's someone else, then if John has to agree for y'all not to vote on the amendment. If John doesn't agree, then that's when it becomes a vote for the amendment.
Now, the amendment could be as simple as, I want to amend to say that we're approving a 1-to-1 match for one.
No, that's already what was approved before, a 1-to-1 match. So it has nothing to do with the pieces.
Okay.
This has to do with what you approved
The money we're
before.
giving.
Right, on the
Right.
grants program, the
So
regulations.
I guess the motion on the floor right now is for approval of a 1-to-1 match.
No.
No.
No, to amend.
Anything other than a 1-to-1 match.
Amending.
2-to-1, 3-to-1, 4-to-1, whatever.
Oh,
Yeah.
so, okay, the question on that is like, if it's not 1-to-1, where does the other percentage come from?
Us,
Right.
we pick it.
Well, I mean, if
Are
it's
you ready
not
to
one to
do it?
one, if
So
we're.
they put a dollar in, we put a dollar in, one for one.
Right, so
That's how it's written.
if we're not saying, hey, we're not going 1 to 1, we're going 2 to 1, so the artist is putting up the money
Correct.
Correct.
for, okay,
Like Melody said, a big portion of the fee is labor.
okay. Well, that's a possibility as well, you know, if it was all 4 pieces for half price, you know. I don't know if he'd still do it or not, does he, I guess he has the ability to withdraw?
Yes, he does. I have every belief that if we did at least a 2 to 1, he would likely move forward.
Okay, and if we had a private business that was participating, it'd be the same thing, 2 to 1? Or I know it's 1 to 1 for a private business.
Correct. Correct.
All right, so something to consider there, so then we'd be talking about basically $7,500.
That's how it's written.
That's where we're at right now.
Written.
Yeah.
That's the current.
So that would be, if we did a 2 to 1, it'd be more like
10.
10.
Right.
Okay, I got you. I'm only an engineer, I don't know math.
You've been mathing all day, man.
I
The
know.
motion on the
My
floor
brain's
right now
tired.
is whether we're going to change it to anything other than a 1 to 1.
Correct.
Yes, sir.
Okay, I call for the question then.
Okay,
It's up to me, thank God. All right. So I would like to move that we, and I'm gonna say this wrong, but I'm just gonna throw it out there, that we do a 75%. That's what I would like to do. 2 to 1, I guess is what it would be, but 75% is, yeah, you're right. But I'll go 75% that we fund this. That's what I would like to do.
okay. So now John has amended his motion.
You have to have a second.
All right, do I have a second for 75%?
I will,
Melody, second? All right, here we go. All right,
And
so
now
we
you're
have,
voting, you're actually voting on it.
all right, we are voting on 75% support on this. Okay, so we have a motion, and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say nay.
nay.
Ooh, all right, we're gonna take roll call vote on that, because I'm not that good with ears. All right. Mr. Felty, Jeff Felty,
Nay.
Aye.
Hayden, aye.
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 Nay.
All right, so we have 1, 2, 3, 4 ayes, 2 nays, so the ayes have it, motion passes.
But that is just the actual,
This year's.
Just this,
Project.
This project.
yes, because this session is closed.
Now, you can direct staff if you want him to come back with the artist pieces for y'all to make a decision for all 4 or 1, you know what I mean? To look at.
I think that we need to see this, or at least have a presentation.
If you wait, I will tell you, if you do decide to wait, they will not be done in this fiscal year. There's just no physical time to complete
Right.
it, because your next board meeting is September.
Right, yeah, I think, I mean, I don't know if all of us are really nervous about the timeline of it getting put up right away. I think most of us are just concerned about, we just want to make sure it looks good.
And that's why we had the Arts Grant Committee.
You know, Donald Doris is an artist. He knows this sculpture, and he was the one who really said, this guy knows what
He's doing.
It's beautiful.
Yeah.
He does, the work that he does. He was very much.
Yeah.
I just to let you know.
If, I know I was against it, but if y'all, since this has passed, if we don't do it now, it's going to roll to next fiscal year, so that will change the program, then this is
Yeah.
all null and void. It doesn't matter, because this is for this current year.
Right.
So if it doesn't get started and get put into this fiscal year, it's going to roll to next year, which will then be a new program.
Right.
So it wouldn't matter.
Yeah, I think though, as long
Am I
as
right
we
about
started before the fiscal ends, right, doesn't it still?
Has to complete by September 30th.
Oh,
We
okay.
have to actually have the product in hand for you to pay out on a fiscal year. So that's the thing, that what information you give your artist, you need to let him know that. So he's only gonna get paid, because this is only till September 30th.
Okay.
So if he starts investing on all 4 pieces and it doesn't get installed and completed, then it goes to the next fiscal, that's a whole different project that you'll have to approve.
Okay. So it sounds like we're all in on this, so
That's a pick.
better tell him to get going. He's already behind.
He's already.
Well,
We'll call them right now.
if you look at his hours alone, that's working 40-hour weeks.
Yeah.
That's almost 6 weeks.
Yeah. So
And we
that's
only have
right at
7
it.
weeks until the end of the year.
Yeah.
Till the end of the fiscal year.
And hopefully he's got a helper.
Don't all artists have helpers?
I know, I don't know.
Big groups.
Had to hustle it. All right, so Glenn, with that, it's being passed, so you're in charge now of making sure this guy's on the ball.
Does that go back to the Arts Committee?
I don't think it needs to.
No.
No, they actually picked the projects.
You picked it, but you don't have to work with him as far as, okay,
I would trust y'all to do it, though. Just-
okay.
All right, it's gonna be great.
I have a point
Sure.
of order question here. My understanding is we just approved changing it to 75%.
Correct.
We did not approve this particular project. Is that correct?
I think the amendment,
Program, you don't have to. The Arts Grant Committee already approved the artist and these pieces and the location of the pieces.
We gave them the.
we just
direction.
approved the funding.
Correct.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
So unless there's additional direction given, then that's the way it'll stand.
We're gonna love it. It's gonna be great. Feel it. How'd you make the agenda so difficult this time?
Here. I'll share with you.
There we go. All right, back to the beginning. All right, now we're going to move on to item number 12, presentation of and discussion on the proposed fiscal year ending 2022-23 Helotes Economic Development Corp. operating budget. All right, Glenn, why don't you give us a quick presentation on that?
Sir, I'm trying to get it pulled up on the screen.
And thank you for the ultra-large budget pages here. This is awesome.
That helps just a little bit.
Yeah.
So this time I've got a PowerPoint presentation we can run through a little bit. Obviously, Mr. Lopez presented to City Council at the August 11th meeting. He did a kind of a pinch hit there at the last second, did an amazing job. Only having, what, 2 hours?
Yeah.
Advance notice.
That was good.
So I appreciate that. So this is the first time then the EDC board has seen this particular presentation. So our budget has been developed with input from the Finance Committee to be consistent with the EDC mission vision, as well as our new strategic work plan, which also was approved by City Council at their last meeting. So we believe this is the best allocation of our funds for FY 2023. So the primary revenue stream for the EDC is sales tax through a half-cent sales tax for all transactions happening within the corporate city limits. The proposed budget is estimating a $3,530,000 revenue stream from sales tax. And then keep in mind that that may be a little shocker compared to previous years, but 2 million of that is sales tax that is part of a 380 agreement with Texas developers, otherwise known as BMC Millwork. Let's see if we get the, oh my God, each one bounces, geez.
Oh, my goodness.
So we do track it year over year over year.
Oh, wow.
Oh, wow. Look at that.
This is a video.
Hey, you didn't give me this one with animation on it. I booed everybody with that.
I get all the good
That's a
stuff.
boring one.
So obviously, the anticipated revenue for this fiscal year is about 3.7. Again, that's assuming almost 2 million of that with BMC Millwork.
Right.
So one reason why it looks like the revenue jumps so dramatically.
Right. So Glenn, just so everybody understands this chart though, the number there for 2021, the 2.2 million does not include, since the budget was not set up that way, it does not include the tax revenue from BMC.
Correct.
Right. So just so everybody understands, there's money from BMC that shows up in 2022 that's not in our 2021. So it's not that big of an increase. It's just the way that we're reporting is different. So we're actually putting in BMC. Before, what we did is we netted them out as a revenue. Now we're taking them all in as 100% revenue, and then we're taking them as an expense on the out of the 380. There's reasons for that. The main reason is that our ability in our marketing budget is based upon our total revenue. And so whenever we're netting it out, we're actually hurting how much we can put into our marketing budget, to where if we have them in as a gross, it helps us in the marketing budget, but at the end, it's still how much money we can spend as a total because they're still coming out at the end. So just want to let you know that that big jump that you see there is not as big as what it appears to be.
And I like to say it's also, full transparency. There's been a lot of state law changes with especially 380 agreements and the reporting of them. Starting this year, we have to report all 380 agreements to the state in a database, as well as provide those documents on a website that's accessible at any time. So that's an email that just came through today. So there's no more public information request or any of that kind of stuff. It has to be openly available to anyone at all times. So they're really trying to, in a way, crack down on the language in some of the stipulations. They want to make sure all citizens understand these very complex documents, to be honest.
Glenn, just to give some context, if we netted out BMC out of that today, it would be closer to 2.7.
1.7.
1.7.
1.7.
Yes, sir.
So we'd actually be below 2021?
Yeah, I believe both the city and EDC is looking at it because BMC, there was a big jump the last 4 months when they merged.
Yeah.
We don't know if that trend is going to continue.
Right.
So that's
Or if
what
it
you're
was
going to
just a
see.
one-time.
Exactly, a one-time.
Yeah.
So until we have at least a year's data, there's
Yeah.
no way to assume that that's going to continue.
I agree with you on that, because anytime there's a merger like that, it's just like anything with Wall Street, it's going to cause a huge jump, but you don't know if that's actually sustainable or not. Okay.
So then these are our kind of net revenues between 2021 and 2022. Again, you can see primary source of revenue is sales tax. We do have a sublease with the Helotes Chamber of Commerce that produces about $4,200 in the last 2 years, and then you can see the interest. Seeing the interest actually being accrued the last couple of months, have hope this next year we'll do a lot better.
All right. Free money.
So this one is going back and comparing the 21, 22 adopted budget and then the proposed 2023. And break it down in the three main categories with personnel, contractual services, and commodities. Again, in 23, you're going to see the biggest jump in commodities, going from 16,000 to almost 2.3 million. And again, 2 million is the BMC millwork.
So the BMC 380 payment that we have to give back shows up in the commodities line item that you'll see there. On y'all's big sheet here, you'll see the 380 agreement under 510-5333. That's where you'll see that 2 million coming out.
And the other big expense in commodities is the 325,000 that's going out to the city to cover the debt service.
Yeah.
Does that
You
bring?
take out 3.25, you're actually at about 25,000 compared to 16,000 from last year.
Yeah. So some of the, not necessarily big changes, the tenant improvement grant was a new program last year. Right now we have proposed keeping it at 150,000. Again, that supports new retail office, food and beverage based businesses, and it is a 50% reimbursement grant not to exceed 20,000 per business. We did elect to include land acquisition for possible future development at 250,000, and basically just a placeholder, and to get the ball rolling in case there's feasibilities or appraisals that need to be ordered. Then we have our business improvement grant, which is actually the e-commerce accelerator incentive program. Have that in here at 80,000. This would be the second year of doing that particular program as well. Marketing for the city events, we've got 50,000 in there. I tried to just kind of break it down. That's fluid. I'm sure we need to sit down with Marion and the mayor to figure out exactly how the money's going to be spent. Just wanted to kind of put some rough idea. 25,000 on Marketplace, 17,000 Carnival Parade, 3,000 July 4th, and 5,000 Christmas Parade.
And really in that, Glenn, just so, because it took me a while, I went through all this. So it's not really a program change. We had 50,000 in the budget last year, and we're actually just doing 50,000 again. And it looks like we spent 50,000 exactly this year, so.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Even the LOMAR is not a program change. We approved that in 2022. However, that is still in the process. So those expenses will be coming out likely in 2023. I believe that was kind of a 9 to 24 month project to begin with. So we're just in the middle of that. Mention again the 325 for the funding agreement with the city of Helotes. That's what that transfer out will be. So, oh man, my screen's hidden. So proposed total expenditures is $4,063,185. Technically, it's a 231% increase over the adopted 2022 budget. Again, majority of that is related to the $2 million Chapter 380 agreement. The same token, you can see the estimated projected revenues is also a 224% increase. So they're pretty much mirroring each other. In order to have a balanced budget, as presented, we will have to transfer $511,985 from our reserve fund. But keep in mind, this fiscal year, we came significantly under budget on our expenditures. So one of the next slides, anticipated ending fund balance, in essence, our reserve funds, after this year will be $3,030,151, which we previously started at just over $2 million. And then as our FY 2023 is proposed, our ending fund balance with that 511,000 transfer would be $2,518,000. It's easier to say for me, 166. So we still would have grown our fund balance. So the previous year, we were just over 2 million. Oh, that wasn't pretty. So we'll be at just almost 2.5. So the next part, obviously all these line items can be discussed, modified, and amended. We have our only public hearing tonight, which we did at the start of the meeting. We do go before City Council on August 25th and September 8th for public hearings. And then after that, Council, EDC can approve the budget on September 21st. Council will then approve it September 22nd. That'll be the last time to amend.
Okay, thank you, Glenn. A lot to take in there, so for us to open this up for discussion, so do I have to do a motion on discussion, or is it just discussion? It's not really an action item, so I guess a motion is not required.
It is discussion only at this point.
Okay, very good. So I'll open it up. So I went through this in pretty much detail in my crash course in presenting to the council. So really, and we've looked at this before. the big items that we just talked about that are different from what we did before is we are taking in the 380 agreement, we're taking in our total sales tax at the top line. So that's why you see projected year in at 1.7 and proposed 2023 at 3.5. But we're also taking it on the bottom line as a expense, and that's why expenses went up from 777 to 4.0. Now that's a portion of it. The other big portions of it is the 400,000, the big items that we're putting in more money in that we have done before is we have 400,000 in new business development incentives. So this goes along with our strategic work plan of what we talked about of trying to incentivize specific businesses of what they are. You know, part of this goes into surveying of what the public wants and what the needs are, understanding AI placer and where people are spending money and figuring out what those specific businesses are. And so we have $400,000 set aside for these business incentives. What those exactly are, we don't know what they are at this point until we know what the business is and where they want to go. Of course, the other big item is our agreed upon funding agreement with the city, which is there at the bottom of the commodities at $325,000. So you take that $725,000 plus the $2 million is what's really coming up with a big difference about what we're spending on money this year as opposed to last year. Everything else pretty well stayed in line. I think even our I don't know about the office supplies budget, but we'll see what happens. You know, he spent $300 last year, and we put 3,000, and so don't go crazy on Keurigs or anything over there. But yeah, but Glenn's been very fiscally responsible over the years, and we basically set up the same budget. So and this is the same thing I explained to council is these are our budgets, and I think we all know each other as a board, that we're pretty fiscally conservative people. And we'd love for everybody to participate in our tenant improvement grants and our e-commerce grants, but we just don't have that many participants. But we're going to try to do a better job of advertising that. Of course, we're revamping our sites and changing us from Shop Helotes to Visit Helotes. So maybe things will change that we'll use up some of that. So. Discussion items, Jeff? All right, Greg?
I'm gonna go back and watch you present.
No.
You did a great job.
It's terrible.
It's great.
Melissa?
I'm good.
John? Melanie? Joe?
I was on the finance committee when we went through this, so we've pretty much gotten it, I think, where we want to see it. And I'm most excited about the new business development incentive. I really hope we can utilize those funds to incentivize very strategic businesses that we want to see come to the city that not only support the tax base, but keep and draw new people into the city to come visit us here. So I have nothing to add.
And Joel, you brought up a very good point. Finance committee, hats off to y'all. This is a very well put together budget. So thanks for y'all's hard work on it. So since we don't have any action, we can just move on to the next item.
Correct.
All right. So we're going to move to item number 13, discussion of and action on submitting letters of recommendations to City Council for the reappointment of Blaine Lopez, Melanie Cooper, and Gregory Hayden to the Helotes Economic Development Corporation Board of Directors as required by the EDC bylaws, Article 2, Section 2.1. All right, so pretty simple. Do I have a motion for letters of recommendation to City Council for those board members?
So
Can we even vote on that?
I think there's an action item on it, yes, you all, as a board. Now, that's actually a very good question. So how do we vote on it if you're voting on yourself? I guess you're voting for everybody, or do you have to do each one individually?
You can do each one individually, so
Okay,
that
let's do
person
that.
does not vote on that.
Okay, so
they're listed.
So what we'll have is, I don't vote unless it's a tiebreaker, so I'm not going to include myself, but Melody, you're going to have to recuse your vote from yourself, and Greg, you're going to have to recuse yourself from the vote on you.
Now I'm worried.
Yes. Just to make this by the books. Okay. All right, so I will now entertain a motion for reappointment of Blaine Lopez, a letter of recommendation to the city council for reappointment of Blaine Lopez to the board of directors.
So moved.
I'll second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say nay. Motion passes. Okay. Now I will entertain a motion for a letter of recommendation to city council for reappointment of Melody Cooper to the HEDC board. All those in, oh, sorry.
So moved.
So moved.
I'll second.
All right, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say nay. Ayes have it, so Melody, congratulations. All right, so third will be motion for submitting a letter of recommendation to city council for the reappointment of Gregory Hayden to Helotes HEDC board. Motion?
So moved.
I'll second.
All right, we have motion and second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say nay. All right, ayes have it. So we are all reappointed.
That was easy.
Recommended.
Pending city council.
Or pending city council. Yes, sorry. Gluttons for punishment. Okay, so with that, I will now, actually, we have no closed sessions at this time, do we? Okay, so with that, I will now adjourn. It is 8:43.